Living in a homeowners association, HOA community, well, it can be a mixed bag. It has its perks, but it is not for everyone. So today we're going to break it down so that you can weigh the pros and the cons and decide if it's the right fit for you. Stick around. Hey neighbors, Catherine Newman here.
Hello, Newman.
And being in this business for over 28 years has taught me many things about HOAs. What to like, what to hate.
You're horrible!
And we had many HOA communities when I lived in the Colorado Springs, Colorado area. When I was selling real estate there, that's where I started my business. But not as many HOAs as when we moved here to Florida. And then here in Florida, you factor in something, well, that was new to me when we moved here 11 years ago. CDDs, Community Development Districts. I was like, what?
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
And if you want to know more about what a CDD is and why it is, although there's always debate about why it is, be sure to watch this video here where I explain the CDD concept in more detail. And while I'm at it, a little commercial here.
And now a word from our sponsor.
I'd really appreciate if you would do me a solid and subscribe to this channel and like this video, because on this channel, I really attempt to not only provide you with great information about, well, our markets here in the Manatee and Sarasota County areas, but I also really attempt to help educate you on all things real estate, home ownership, decor ideas, staging, how to buy, how to sell, pricing your home more effectively, mortgage information, yada, yada, yada.
Yada, yada, yada.
And I try to entertain you in the process. So please subscribe so that you're alerted every time a new video is available. So before we jump into the pros and the cons of living in an HOA community, I want to give you some HOA facts. Now, there's like 3 pages here of facts. Don't worry, I'm not going to bore you too bad, but I did want to give you some great HOA information so you can understand how important HOAs have become since the late 70s. You know I love my data. Here's some HOA facts. Now this was last updated March 13th of this year, 2025 by iProperty Management. And this is data that they get from US Census, HOA community associations across the country and all of that sort of thing. So this is where this data is coming from. So first they're saying that 82.4% of new homes sold, new construction in 2023 were part of HOA communities. Now, I know this is going back to 2023, but that's the data they have right now. 40 million U.S. households, that's 53% of homeowners, so we're over half the population of homeowners, live in HOA communities. So guys, that people know HOAs are very popular. So the average fee, and I know they're different across the board, but the average fee for a single family home is $300 per month. Now, I only pay $80 some a month, so I've never paid $300, but that's the average fee when you factor in all of the states. Now, from 2023 to 2024, 5,000 new HOA communities were formed, and since 2010, an average of 4,600 new HOAs appear every year. That's a lot of HOA communities.
Oh, that's a lot of money, eh?
That's telling you something about HOA communities. Now, the number of associations increased 10.6% between 2014 up to 2024. On average, listen to this, HOA homes are priced 4% higher than similar homes that are outside of HOAs, okay? So they're priced higher. Which state has the highest HOA dues? Now, I think it would be Hawaii, but I was wrong. It's New York. New York HOAs have the most expensive monthly dues, averaging, this is average people, $990 a month. And you've seen those HGTV specials where they find a hallway that's this big and might have a toilet and a sink, and they're paying like $1 trillion for it. Okay, I know. I'm being dramatic. That's a lot of money a month, $990. Woo! Now, West Virginia has the lowest average monthly dues for an HOA at $37 a month. So if you want to pay lower HOA dues and you need me to sell your house, give me a call. You can move to West Virginia. And here's what's interesting too. 63% of HOA residents call the fees that they pay in their HOA fair. They think they're fair. 35% report that their HOA is overpriced. So most people feel that the fees they pay for their HOA are pretty fair. Only 35% feel like they're paying too much. And what do HOA residents think about living in an HOA? Well, 59.8%, that's almost 60% of HOA residents report positive experiences with their community association. So that's a good sign. 26.2% have a neutral experience. I thought this was really interesting. 68.3% of HOA residents report a good or very good relationship with their immediate neighbors. Now, I can tell you right now, I live in an HOA. I like it. It's been good for us. We've always kind of lived in an HOA. And my neighbors, awesome. Love my neighbors. They're like my family. Really love my neighbors. They're the best. 71.7%. That's a big amount of residents that live in an HOA say that the HOA provides value to them and support. So that's interesting. And 62.6% of residents believe that community rules enhance their property values. That's 62.6%. So most people believe living in an HOA and the rules and restrictions, although some people don't like them, they do believe that they enhance their property values. And of course, the stats show that. Only 23% of residents that lived in an HOA reported that living there had made their lives more difficult. So that's interesting to know. And what was the biggest complaints, right? Well, 17.1% said, that's only 17.1% of residents say restrictions on landscaping and exterior projects is the worst. So that's not a lot, right? 13.44% of HOA residents report a bad or very bad experience with their community. So that's still not very high. 33% of residents report that parking is the most likely cause of conflict in their associations. And I can say that that is quite true. Remember the whole river wilderness truck parking thing that was going on and all the people out on the roads at Old Tampa Boulevard, Old Tampa Road, people protesting out there. They didn't like that parking rule. 31.9% of residents say noise is the biggest complaint, while 25.1% say pets cause the most conflicts. And that's probably because they poop in your yard and the owners of those dogs aren't picking up the poop. Pick up the poop, people! Pick the poop up. They make those special little bags. Pick up the poop. So what about Florida? Well, there are 50,100 HOAs in Florida serving a total of about 3.9. That's almost 4 million homes, right? 9.5 million people in Florida live in an HOA community. So that's about 40.7% of the resident population. So that's a lot of people in Florida that live in an HOA. All right, so let's go over the pros, the good things about living in an HOA community. Number one pro, well, you have a well-maintained neighborhood mostly, and HOAs are all about keeping the community looking sharp. They enforce rules about lawn care, exterior paint colors, and of course, even holiday decorations. And the result is supposed to be a neighborhood that's clean, attractive, and consistent. And this can help maintain or even boost property values. Now, I said well-maintained HOAs because for many communities, both here in Florida and the ones we've experienced, we experienced this in Colorado too. When some of the communities get older, maybe 20 plus years, sometimes after that point, and they're always overseen by elected residents, some HOAs can tend to go downhill a little bit. And of course, we're going to talk about that when we get on the topic of the cons of living in an HOA. Pro number 2. Well, some HOAs offer amenities galore. Now, many HOAs offer amenities like pools and fitness rooms and clubhouses and parks. Some even offer golf courses. And for a lot of people and a lot of my buyers, these perks can save them money compared to if they had to pay for similar amenities individually elsewhere. And of course, a lot of my buyers like these HOA amenities because they're super convenient since they're right in your own neighborhood. Now, some neighborhoods, like my neighborhood here in my hometown of Parrish, Florida, we don't offer amenities at all. We have a gazebo and we have a pickleball court / basketball court. The HOA in these types of communities, like where I live, where there's not many amenities, they really are just have an HOA in place to retain the beauty of the community, keep the legal issues in check, and they're important to keep the home values higher because they're not going to allow the residents to start to trash the community doing any old thing they want to do. And you know the neighbor I'm talking about. Always got that stuff going on at their house.
What are you wearing? What are you doing?
Yeah. We're throwing a Robert De Niro party.
Pros of an HOA number 3, conflict resolution. So maybe you've got a neighbor who's blasting music at 2 a.m. or parking their RV on the front lawn.
Oh, that's an RV.
Well, an HOA can step in and handle those kind of disputes so you don't have to. So it's kind of like having a built-in mediator. Pro number 4, community events. So HOAs often organize events like holiday parties, block parties, fitness classes, especially if you live in a CDD community where they have a full-time director there that does activities. And of course, these events are great for building a sense of community and getting to know your neighbors if you're the kind of person who wants to get to know your neighbors.
Gotta tell you, you ain't even listening about it.
Pro number 5, increased security. Now, some HOAs, especially around here, provide gate access, security patrols, surveillance cameras, and of course, this can give you peace of mind and make you feel like your neighborhood is safer. All right, so we are getting into the cons of living in an HOA. And don't you love it? Everybody likes to hear all the bad stuff. Number 1 con, fees, fees, fees. You get a fee, and you get a fee, and everybody gets a fee. So let's talk about the money. HOA fees can range, like we talked about earlier, from a few hundred to several $1,000s a year, depending on the community and, of course, what amenities they offer. Now, here in my markets, the CDD fee that I told you about typically is the entity that handles all of the amenities, right? The fixes, the upkeep, and there would be a combination of a CDD fee plus an HOA fee. Don't you love it? So in these huge communities around here, the CDD fee is always a part of your non-ad valorem tax bill, while the HOA is either paid monthly or sometimes quarterly. And if you have a higher CDD fee, and around here, man, those CDD fees can range anywhere from a few $100s a year up to $3,000, $4,000 a year or more. It's crazy. But if you have a higher CDD fee, then the HOA fee is typically much lower, maybe only $80 to $200. And it depends on how many amenities that your community has. So you really need to make sure that you understand the fees before you sign on the dotted line to purchase a home in any given community. And don't forget, if the HOA needs extra cash for repairs or upgrades, you might get hit with a special assessment. Don't you feel special when they give you a special assessment?
Are you kidding me?
And I want to make sure I tell you, when you are buying a home, make sure that when you get those HOA documents and you look through the rules and regulations and you look through how they elect officials and all the things you can do and all the things you can't do, also make sure that your real estate agent is asking for the current approved budget for that community, because you want to make sure you're going into a community where they ain't moneyless. They got to have some money to maintain the things in the community. And you want to make sure that you get a memo of the reading of the minutes from the meetings, because you would want to know if there's something special coming up that was talked about in a meeting before you buy a house, right? Because that might really impact not just your finances, but it might impact the way you feel about a community. So make sure your agent is getting that information for you before you make an offer. Con of living in an HOA number 2, rules and restrictions. So as you know, HOAs have rules for everything. How high your grass can grow, what color you can paint the front door, even whether you can put up a basketball hoop. So if you're someone who values freedom and flexibility, this can also feel kind of stifling for you. So make sure you know what's allowed, what's not allowed. Again, I said earlier in the stats that parking is a big deal, and that's true. I know in my community, you're allowed to be on the street during the day, but at a certain time at night, between 7 at night and 6 in the morning, something like that. You can't have parked on the road overnight. And I get that. I like kind of going through a neighborhood where there's not cars parked everywhere. And that's something you want to think about too when you're going through communities. If there's a lot of cars parked out on the road during the middle of the day, what's it going to look like in 5-10 years? I don't know. That's something to think about. It's very common, so make sure you check on that. And then I remember a few communities right here in Parrish, that you weren't allowed to have a truck. You either had to park it in your garage. You couldn't park it even on your own driveway. So these are all things you really need to know about. If there's a pet limit, if there's a certain type of breed or whatever that you can't have. Most single family communities don't really care as long as you keep your dog in check. But in condos and that sort of thing, yeah, they might have breed restrictions. So just make sure you check the rules and regulations of any home that you're going to go check out to consider buying. Con number 3, potential for power struggles and mismanagement of funds. You've all heard the weird HOA stories. And remember, HOAs are run by a board of directors, which is usually made up of the residents once it's turned over from maybe the developer or contractor. Now, sometimes these boards can become overly controlling, or they can play favorites. And if you disagree with their decisions, well, honey, good luck, because changing things can be a slow and frustrating process. Plus, remember, the board members can change often, right? And with each new board, they bring new ideas, or maybe they bring back old ideas. There's also the issue with board members being tired of hearing gripes from their neighbors, and they want off that board of directors never to return again. And I get that also. Some reason, people like to complain. Now remember, a board of directors for your HOA community are only volunteers. They are not paid. And most of them put in a lot of time only to have their community residents, their neighbors complain about them, or they get in heated arguments at HOA meetings, and it's just not worth it. So a lot of those people get tired of it and they remove themselves from the board. And you guys know there's always going to be some really great board members that really know what they're doing and they really want the best for the community. And there are always going to be some not so great board members who shouldn't be there in the first place. So choose your board members wisely. Con of living in an HOA number 4. Well, there are fines and penalties. You break the rules, you could face fines and penalties. Did you forget to bring your trash cans up to the house? Well, that might cost you. Didn't get approval for that new fence? You might have to tear it down. And like we said earlier, did y'all park on the street overnight? You stinking rebel, you! Or what if you got behind on paying your dues? Well, that's a big no-no because an HOA has the power to, unfortunately, play God in this scenario. Your first late pay, you're probably going to get a friendly reminder. Your second or third late pay, you're probably going to get late fees or maybe some interest added to it. But if you have several missed payments, well, you may hear from a collections agency. And if you're still not paying those dues, the HOA can initiate a lawsuit against you with a judgment that includes garnishing your wages and slapping any fines incurred so that you could be stuck paying the attorney's fees. Now, if you get really behind on paying those HOA dues, unfortunately, the HOA can file a lien on your property or even what they call a super lien that could lead to foreclosure. So remember, you really have to weigh if you're able to pay those dues in your community before you even buy a house. Guys, if you get behind on paying your HOA dues, and it does happen, right? It happens all the time. People lose their job. They've had maybe a tragedy in the family. Please let your HOA know as soon as possible because what I have seen, this is just my 28-year plus experience, most HOAs are willing to work with you to help get that caught up, work something out with you, especially if you've had a tragedy. Not just losing a job because you don't want to go out there and work again, but if you've had a sickness in the family or a tragedy or you've really lost a job. I know during COVID, it was really hard for people to pay their dues. And a lot of HOAs got behind, but they were working with people as long as people let them know that they were facing a hardship. Con number 5. Yeah, it can feel like you're constantly being watched. So, con is living in an HOA that you have limited privacy, and that means that your neighbors and maybe your board of directors might have a say in what you do with your property. And believe me, they do have a say. This can feel invasive, especially if you're someone who likes to keep to yourself. So if you're a naturally paranoid person and you wonder why that car is parked in front of your house and somebody's out there taking notes, yes, I've seen that before. An HOA community might not be a good fit for you. Okay, so when is an HOA a good fit for someone? Well, maybe you're someone that values a well-kept neighborhood. You love the idea of living in a community where everyone follows the same rules, the same standards, and that kind of community might be a perfect fit for you. Might be a good fit if you really want amenities. So maybe you're looking for a home with access to your own fitness center, your own pools and hiking trails and all of those kind of perks. Well, an HOA might be worth the cost to you. Maybe you're someone where you really like structure, right? You appreciate rules and order. Then you'd probably thrive in an HOA community. Now, when should you think twice about living in an HOA community other than maybe you're a paranoid person? It is what it is. Some of us are. Some of you are. Maybe you're an independent-minded person, right? You don't like being told what to do. So the restrictions of an HOA might drive you bonkers. Maybe it's not the right fit for you if you're on a tight budget and the fees and potential assessments, it might feel like too much. So maybe you should steer clear of an HOA and or CDD community. Maybe you should steer clear if you value privacy and you don't want your neighbors or a board of directors having a say in your personal decisions, right? Well, in that case, an HOA probably isn't good for you. Here's the bottom line, you guys. Living in an HOA is all about trade-offs. In an HOA community, you get a well-maintained, for the most part, amenity-rich, for the most part, community, but you do give up some freedom and you do pay for that privilege. Again, the key is to read the HOA rules and regulations carefully before you buy that house. Know what you're getting into and make sure what you're reading aligns with your lifestyle and, of course, your priorities and your budget. And people, I really, really encourage you, make sure you attend your HOA meetings if you live in an HOA, because you can't be ticked off about changes that you don't like if you're not at the meeting to have your voice heard. You can't be ticked off about fees possibly being increased if you don't attend the meetings or if you don't vote when you're supposed to. So use your voice to voice any concerns that you have, or get involved with the HOA. And if you're curious about HOA communities here in my neck of the woods, what they offer, I'd love for you to reach out to me so I can get you the information you need ahead of time. And if you'd like to know about communities here that do not have an HOA, or maybe they have an HOA and they don't have a CDD, we have that kind of mixture too, we can also discuss that. And do me a favor, I'd really love to hear your good and your bad stories about an HOA that you've experienced. So please leave your comments below. And again, there's got to be some good. I know you're going to tell me the bad, but let me know both. I'd really love to hear that. I'm Catherine Newman. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe. I will see you next time.